We'll call the meeting to order. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Do roll call, please.
Absolutely. Commissioner Dickdahl?
Here.
Commissioner Cronin? Here. Commissioner Wire?
Here.
Commissioner Shaw? And Mr. Mayor Lindsay.
Here. You have before you the agenda for this evening.
Motion to adopt the agenda as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Is there anyone wants to discuss on the consent calendar? If not, do we have a motion?
Make a motion to approve the consent calendar. Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Under unfinished business, second reading of ordinance number 1670, regulating ATVs, UTVs, and dirt bikes. And Jameson, you want to address that?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is second reading of the ordinance. There were two small changes made between the first reading and the second reading. The first one is changing that golf carts and snowmobiles, which previously were included within the definition of ATV, are now specifically not included. Those two pieces of equipment are regulated elsewhere in city ordinance, so we felt it'd be best to make that change so that there's no overlapping regulations applying to both of them. The second change was removal of a sentence that stated that that prohibited residents from using city or state roads to access land for operating ATVs and dirt bikes. That was in there because the intent of the ordinance was to look at unlicensed vehicles not made for street operation. But to clarify that we just remove that from there since those vehicles can still be regulated in accordance with law as they are now, as long as they're licensed. So remove that sentence to allow usage on city streets and made that change for golf carts and snowmobiles. I think we were able to get a number of comments submitted to us from the public via the website. And I think a lot of concerns that came from those submissions were centered on a couple of the areas of the ordinance, mainly the setbacks and the time limitations. I think those are the two areas of most attention that have been given towards this, and I would encourage you to take obviously public feedback here tonight and ask any questions and take whatever action that the commission deems necessary.
Okay. First of all, do we have anyone from the audience in that would like to address the issue since it's on the agenda?
I'm the one that submitted the comment about.
If you would mind coming up here, we have people that are watching from home and so the microphone is on this little silver thing in the middle. So it'd be appreciated in that so that they can.
Sit here?
That'd be just fine,
Okay.
please. And then if you state your name and that, so people at the home that are listening can hear.
My name is Tori Christensen.
Okay.
And I submitted an email to you stating our concerns with the setback requirements of 50 feet.
Mhm.
So, yeah, the article was 100% directed towards my property, so, yeah. That's our concerns, I guess. We're okay with the time limitations. We've never rode them past probably 7 o'clock at night, honestly. And we really don't ride them probably more than a half an hour at a time, so. I don't see any issues when we're on our own property. We're not in the alleyways, we're not on the sidewalks. It's no different than a lawnmower. It stirs up just as much dust as a lawnmower. I don't know, my concerns are in that paper. I don't know exactly everything I said, but.
Yeah, in here and that said, 50 feet from any adjoining property and 100 feet from the residential and.
Basically,
And
limit
that's what
us.
we've received other people saying, that's an issue there as well, so. And I've received your comments also, and I really appreciate that.
Yeah, so we would just appreciate to reconsider the feet, because we are on our own property and we are easy to work with and we do compromise on like the article states as well. We were never presented. I mean, she they've never talked to me, the property owner. I've never been talked to about the issue. It just was brought forward straight here without even. I mean, I'm willing to compromise if I knew there was a big issue. I think they just don't want it, period, and that's
Well,
really
and-
not
and
quite
there
fair.
was one other property also, but those people didn't move.
Hmm.
You know, so.
Yeah.
But I appreciate and really thank you, Annette, for your comments and, you know, we'll discuss it with the commission after that. Is there anyone else from the audience? Go ahead, please. Again, for those people who are at home and that, if you state your name.
Chad Vandenhemmel, my kid's been riding in my front yard for the last 6 years. Never had an issue. I've talked with 4 of my neighbors, none have complaints. Haven't had complaints ever. And I don't ever let them ride past 7. You know, we don't ride for more than a half hour, 45 minutes at a time anyway, because the kid's gonna get tired anyways. But I just think the setbacks are a little ridiculous myself. You know, we're on our property, we're not hurting anything. It's not bothering anybody. Like I said, we've been doing it for 6 years, so. Never an issue.
Very good. Thank
Thanks.
you. Anyone else?
Is this time for questions?
Certainly.
Does this?
Well, okay, please come up. You know, it's for the courtesy of the people who are, listening at home.
Yep.
And then again, if you'd state your name.
Oakley Denny, does this regulate licensed ATVs on the property?
Does it, no, if you have a licensed ATV
Yep,
and that you can ride them on the street. But does it, license them if you're, you know, have a track on your property? The answer I would say was probably yes.
that's just my question. If it regulated licensed ATVs on my property.
Yeah, basically the way it's written, it addresses ATVs and dirt bikes and that on private property. But then if yours is licensed, then you can take it off your property and you're subject to state law.
Okay.
You know, on the highways and that, so.
Okay.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, if there's no other public comment, then that, I'd appreciate comments from the commission.
Yeah, again, I have some issues with this too. Some of them were shared already publicly, but, the setbacks, yeah, I don't wanna have regulation over how people are using their property, so. I mean, to go down to, you know, a foot or whatever, as long as they're not driving on other people's property, that's the way I would see it. Time limit, you know, 8 o'clock, I don't really care for that much either, you know, people are busy in the summertime and, you know, are out doing yard work till sometimes 10 at night in the summer, so I don't really like the 8 PM. And I also don't like the, you know, ride for an hour and then have a 3-hour break. That's still in here, right?
It is.
Yeah, that wasn't changed.
Yeah, you know, again, I hate to limit people's use of their own property. And so, yeah. There's a lot of this I don't like, so. Definitely not gonna vote in favor of it as is.
I'm gonna echo Kelly as well. I struggle with this just in the fact that I feel it's a bit of a knee-jerk reaction. Because of the fact that it's some homeowners that maybe can't get along, and I don't wanna get us to the point where we're constantly having to put ordinances in. For things that probably don't necessarily need to be in our lap. Like Cory said, this is probably something that probably could have been resolved long before it ever got to us. And I'm totally with Kelly. I don't want anybody telling me how to do things on my property. I pay my own mortgage and my lawn, pay my taxes, et cetera. And, you know, I think we're good citizens and, you know, we're all cognizant of our neighbors. I'd like to think and, you know, that we do things that are, you know, if I had children, I would regulate what time they're on their dirt bike at. I don't think I'd have them out there at 10 o'clock at night riding a dirt bike around, and if they do, that's on me. I mean, I would handle that, but I struggle with it the way it sits, the way it is right now.
I agree. I think that we would be overstepping a bit. as it's written right now.
Yeah, and I guess the other one too, that I don't necessarily love is the two ATVs or dirt bikes at one time. I mean, I have 3 kids. If it ever came to that, it's also not my favorite either, so.
You know, we have plenty of flood property in this community, and if we can find some property to throw some dirt on and maybe build a dirt bike track for our kids, and we have a skateboard park and we have a pool, and there's lots of opportunity in this community, maybe we can look at some of those things to provide that opportunity for them. So.
I'd like to see this handled in more of a neighborly way, you know. Just figure it out amongst neighbors and then. Again, it's a broken record. Controlling what you can and cannot do on private property is a hang up. For me.
As it is written and with modifications, and that is there are modifications and that. That you could see putting into it so that there was something that would allow our law enforcement to be able to step in and say, hey, out of courtesy.
Again, that comes back to being neighborly. I mean, it's.
I think so too. That's a case by case basis where if they need to be involved, it just depends on the situation.
Yeah, I almost feel like this is an isolated incident and, you know, for us to. Overregulate and put an ordinance in that's gonna have unintended consequences for somebody simply trying to do yard work in their backyard. I think I'd rather see the do nothing approach here. Of course, if something continues or we get additional complaints, we revisit it.
So do we have a motion? Or if there is no motion, then that it'll die for lack of a motion. Whichever way the commission would be comfortable. Seeing no motion. And that, I would declare it. That dead at this point in time, and it could be revisited in the future, and that, you know, if the police department or others, you know, felt it was necessary. So with that, I'll move on to number 8. Resolution 2024-18. And again, thank you everyone and that who came in and who responded, those that are here and those that aren't, because we as a commission really appreciate that. Resolution number 2024-18. Annexation of lot 1 and 2 of Schultz's second edition. Is there anyone that wants to speak on that? Terry?
Should we go, Scott?
Sure.
Yeah, come on up.
I'm Terry Schultz, representing Red Horse Seed Production and Schultz Family LLC. That currently owns the property that's being proposed annexation.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the commission. My name is Scott Tigan. I'm a vice president with Quick Trip Stores.
Okay. And that, is there anything that you would like to enlighten us? Other than the zoning change?
Nothing that from Quick Trip's end. I just thought it would be good that you saw a face from Quick Trip.
Yes, we appreciate
We're excited about being in Madison, hopefully.
Yes.
And we appreciate your support.
Questions or comments from the commission? Okay. If no questions or comments, any questions or comments from the audience? If not, do we have a motion?
Make a motion to approve resolution 2024-18 annexation of lot 1 and 2 of Schultz's second edition.
Second.
All, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Number 9, resolution 2024-19. Authorizing burning of trees within Trojan Village development. Jameson, would you want to address that first?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Trojan Village development is a housing development on the northeast side of town. It's been progressing nicely. One of the things that they've done recently is a lot of tree removal, and the developers reached out if the fire department could assist with burning those trees to save them the work of removing from the site entirely. Our fire department has no concerns with this. The fire chief was supportive. It's for all intents and purposes in a muddy field right now, far from any residential dwellings. However, the city ordinance does restrict burning of materials such as this within city limits, because generally it's closer to buildings and such. But since it isn't the case here, we would like to work with them, and so we present this resolution that authorizes the fire chief to burn the trees and related materials at the time when he deems appropriate.
Go ahead.
Will this be an ongoing, like if we run into something like this again, will this resolution cover this down the road?
No, this would be a
One-time
one-time
deal.
Yeah, one-time resolution. If we wanted to make it a permanent change, we could change the ordinance to stay, unless, materials are prohibited from being burned unless allowed by a city commission or unless prescribed by the fire chief or something like that. But for this point in time, since we wanted to act quickly, so to help them burn these materials, we just wanted to get a one-time resolution on the books.
The only question that I have is, the tree grinders, were they contacted? Because there's quite a bit up there.
No, we didn't contact them. This is what was asked from the developer, and we just wanted to act quickly. I don't know when the tree grinders would be available.
I don't know. Other questions?
Would we be able to wait for a favorable wind?
We would probably wait at least a little bit for the referendum period to be passed after this appears in the newspaper. So that's putting us probably 3 weeks out from today or so. And at a point at that time, then the fire chief could find suitable conditions. At this point, things are, as you imagine, very wet, so he wasn't concerned, but he would, I would imagine, wait for a couple days.
Will the fire department be doing the burn?
Yeah, it states that the fire department is permitted to burn the trees, so that allows our guys, our professionals, to do that rather than anybody else wanting to do it themselves.
Other questions?
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2024-19 authorizing the burning of trees within Trojan Village development.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Number 10, resolution 2024-20, Purple Heart City designation. Did you want to address that first?
Sure, I can. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Somebody had reached out to the mayor about declaring Madison a Purple Heart City. This is an effort to recognize our members of the armed forces who have been wounded or killed in service to the country. And so this resolution does that. It's a pretty simple resolution that then would allow us to be deemed a Purple Heart City, and signs would be provided to go around the main entrances to the community to advertise that designation.
And this came from the American Legion.
Which we weren't.
Yeah.
I saw this.
Yeah, and since that request came, as I've been driving through towns, now I'm seeing signs. Before that, I haven't really paid attention for the signs, so. But the resolution has already been put together, and that's what it's for, and so.
I'll make a motion to approve 2024-20 Purple Heart City designation.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Number 11, award the water storage tank long-term maintenance and rehabilitation project to Utility Service Group. And again, I'll ask Jameson, do you want to introduce it or?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll give a quick overview, and then I'll have Jan and Rick from our water collections and distributions and our treatment departments kind of provide more details. Water tower maintenance plans are something that are becoming more common within the state of South Dakota. Essentially, our water towers are very important assets, and they require regular maintenance and inspections to keep them up to the best condition that we expect. And those can be expensive rehabilitations. Every time you paint a water tower, you wanna make sure it's cleaned routinely, it's inspected routinely, and then down the road, eventually will need to be repainted, recoated, and there's work that needs to be done routinely to extend the life of the asset. So these maintenance plans are a way to help cities, easily budget for those changes, because we can have a flat amount each year that we pay to a contracted vendor. And then that takes large expenses that occur every 10 to 15 years down to very manageable budgetable expenses that occur annually. So a month or two ago, the commission authorized staff to advertise for an RFP, a request for proposal, to solicit proposals from vendors to provide this work. And we received 3 proposals. And I think at that point, I'll have Jan and Rick kind of walk through the proposals that we have and ultimately the recommendation for utility service group.
And again, for the benefit of those that are at home, if the two of you would come a little closer, introduce yourself and that for those at home that are listening.
Jan Teeman, City of Madison, Water and Sewer. Rick Nybert, Water and Wastewater Treatment Supervisor. I guess my main comment would be, this is probably the right time to do this. That Northwest Tower is right around 40 years old right now. It's gonna need some pretty extensive maintenance. And this would be a way to, or one of the ways to spread that cost out over a period of time. It's something that's gonna have to be done, and rather than incur that pretty large expense right now, one period, I think it makes sense to spread that out over time. Also, it makes sense to, we've kind of fallen behind on maintenance in that tower a little bit, where I think it's something that we should proceed and kind of keep up with it a little bit more. And with a brand new tower, that's probably not gonna need much for a while, but it also makes sense to keep up the maintenance rather than fall behind on that too.
Which tower was it that needs more maintenance?
Northeast.
Northeast, sorry, not northwest.
I want to make sure I wasn't off.
Yeah, no,
Now, Rick, when it says maintenance, is that external and internal?
both, yeah.
So just for the questions and that I'm gonna probably receive and somebody else, what do they clean inside? What do they do inside?
Well, and Jan can probably answer more of that. He has
Okay.
more of the report of
Yeah.
the last inspection, so.
They, Midco Diving did the last inspection on that. And, they found a lot of pitting, corrosion in there that needs to be welded back. It needs to be ground all down and welded back up. The last thing you want is a water tower to spring a leak, so. But, that's the biggest thing they found, and they said the pits were getting pretty deep, so. And Nate put this together and we reviewed it, and we all kind of were in agreement that USG was the best choice for this maintenance program. So,
In our view, they had more experience with this.
yeah.
And I think Nate has worked with them in the past, and I'm not sure, maybe Jameson has a little experience with them too, and it sounds like they've been really good to work with, so.
Because the water tower is one of the things people look at and don't think anything about, you know? So,
Yeah, you don't want to fall behind on the maintenance program on water tower.
questions or comments from the commission?
I guess, just on this bid, I'm a little bit confused on it, or the RFP results, I should say. So the renovation cost total, you know, for like the USG is 333,000. So the renovation cost for Viking was over 100,000 less, is that right?
Though we spread it all over the thing, that was their response, and their RFP was a little funky.
Yeah.
Because then when you add up the cost for the 7-year spread, when
It's
it's more, it's more, yeah, so.
Sure.
So I put it down exactly what they had in their RFPs,
Okay,
so that's where, and then one person didn't even include that expense, where USG included it, one expense total, and then their amortization reflected that price.
Right, so realistically, USG is the cheapest, is a little bit,
On the renovation, correct?
yeah, okay.
Other questions? Okay, if no other questions, do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to award water source tank long-term maintenance and rehabilitation project to Utility Service Group.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you. Number 12, authorize the mayor to sign the South Dakota Transportation Alternatives Letter of Intent on the Egan Avenue project. And again, I'll ask Jameson to address it first.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This allows us to move forward with one of the potential funding sources for the Egan Avenue reconstruction through transportation alternatives. This funding, it can be, I'll switch out. So the portions of the project that all relate to pedestrian traffic and safety can all be eligible for the transportation alternatives. So the total project cost that's eligible is just over $3 million, and our funding request is about 22%, which is about 2.5 million on that project. And so this just, again, allows us to move forward with the application. Ryan, anything to add?
Questions or comments? If not, do we have a motion?
Make a motion to authorize the mayor to sign South Dakota Transportation Alternative Letter of Intent.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Number 13, approve the purchase of Archive Social for social media archiving. Jameson?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Social media sites such as Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, as well as our website aren't certainly not new things. Social media has been around for quite some time, but something that cities are still working through is how we need to handle them as far as public records and freedom of speech are concerned. So one thing that we have become aware of more recently is that social media accounts are all deemed to be public records, which are eligible for any kind of public records requests that somebody from the public might have. And so currently, if we had a request and we needed to, that we needed to fulfill, we would be just doing a lot of scrolling and reading through articles, trying to figure out if there's a request tied to any service that's being requested, whatever the case is, and it could be quite an arduous process to fulfill that public records request. It isn't something that we have had, however, cities are aware that this is something that can happen, and in some cases it does happen. Social media is also classified as the website is also classified as social media, so that falls within the same parameters. We also need to, so because they're public records, we need to archive everything that's on our social media, any changes that are made. Generally, we don't make changes. It's a freedom of speech issue where we put out some kind of post, and if we start changing it, that can lead to confusion, and if people can comment on that, we can't edit those or anything. So generally, we don't do a lot of edits, but sometimes those cases do happen where we need to make a change. Maybe it's an emergency situation, we want to provide up-to-date and accurate information. And so all that has to be archived in case there's records requests, because they're different. Every change, every post is a different record that is suitable or is eligible for public records requests. So that's kind of a difficult thing to grasp and figure out how we can meet those requests. One product that came to our attention that could help with it is called Archive Social. This is a Civic Plus module. Civic Plus is who we have our website through, as well as our ordinances and our meeting management system and our public text alert system. It's Archive Social will be another module that allows us to archive our content on social media, including the website, and then use it for public records requests if needed. It also, I guess that covers it probably. So the cost would be about $7,200 per year. The first year we would have a discount, reducing it to $6,400. So this is something that we would be having as a tool to make our lives easier if the public records requests come through. It's a little bit of a hard topic to explain, so please let me know if you have any questions.
Questions? Comments?
Or request frequent?
I don't think that I deal with all of the requests, but I probably handle most of them, and we have maybe 10 records requests a year. No, it's probably more than that. Ryan, actually, your office probably gets a lot that don't flow through me.
Yeah, we do probably five or six a year, I suppose.
So we're maybe somewhere between that 15 to 20 records requests. Are they specifically asking for social media? Generally not. But the way that the world's going, social media is becoming more involved, and I could see it happening. It's kind of a tricky issue.
Is this the only business that does this type of service, or have we looked at
It's
others?
the only one that I'm aware of at this time.
One of the things I know Jameson and myself have received questions and that on and comments on is we are sending out a lot of things, electronically in that now. And we have some people in that who are not up to speed to be able to pull them up to where they could read them and things. And so, we've had questions of, can you do it a different way too, besides this and that? Because, as an example, my cell phone, or I've got an old computer, I don't have a computer. And so as we're changing some of the methods in that we're putting information out to people, it's also bringing questions from people who, aren't necessarily up to par or up to speed on their technology. And that, isn't necessarily addressing this at all, but it's one of the things that as we change to more social media, there are people who aren't involved in. So.
Are we? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I didn't have anything to finish there.
Okay. I was just gonna ask, are we required to archive this data for a certain duration? Is this something we're?
Yeah, for duration, that's a good question. Yeah, I guess I don't know if there's a duration. I would say that we have to be able to provide all public records, so there's some requirement to archive. We could simply archive by never making changes. And we generally don't make a lot of changes, but if that's the case, you can go to our page and scroll down as far as you want, and you can get to all those records. As far as the duration, how long we need to archive it, I'm not sure.
One of the questions that came up is, have you told the people this? Have you told the people that? Is, when the storms were hitting and that, how are we letting people know, that there may be flooding? Who may be affected, those are kind of questions that, that I've already received just from the last rains that we have. From people who aren't technology up to date, like the city is at this point.
This won't be advertising, this is just collecting all the information and
Anything that we produce.
indexing.
It archives it all. It allows us to bring forward topics. So if somebody asks about, maybe somebody asks us, how many times have you changed your garbage schedule or something on social media? We can search for that and pull it all together. It's interesting because, you generally wouldn't think social media as being a public record, but according to state law, it is. And at this point in time, we'd be very hard pressed to fulfill those records requests if anybody's asking for us to review all public records, including social media, and bring forward any messages or comments on it. It gets further difficult when you consider freedom of speech. Somebody could be saying a lot of things there that we don't agree with or don't believe. And we don't want to be changing comments or anything. We don't want to adjust that. We also can't restrict comments. So if there's something out there, it has to be open to having comments, and people can comment as much as they want on it. Our social media policy does allow us to regulate based on some content such as profanity or purposefully spreading false information. Like we can't put a stop to that, but that gets to be difficult in the public eye as well, I think.
Social archive requirement is 3 years minimum.
Correct, thank you. As an example, our ATV dirt bike ordinance and that I followed it on Facebook, there were a lot of comments out there. You know, and so, have we as a city responded in any particular, to any of it? Then that we would have made it a city social record.
And I believe, all the comments on our posts regarding that ordinance, even if they're not our comments, they're still public records. We still solicited public feedback by having that post out there, and so it all becomes.
So will this save you or Ryan's department any time? I mean, I don't see that.
Yeah, if a request comes through social media, yes, it would. Right now, we haven't considered our social media as public records, and we haven't gone through them to bring things. And I would say, probably especially Ryan's case, I don't think the requests that you're getting are for social media records.
Correct.
And generally mine wouldn't either.
Other questions, comments, or thoughts?
Yeah, so in the estimate or bid or whatever we got here, it says includes risk management analytics. Do you know what that would be?
I do not. I can get an answer for you though.
And we're just signing 1-year terms, right? The way it looks here.
Yes, I wouldn't envision unless you wanted that we bring this to you every year for approval, but as far as the contract goes, I don't believe we're tied into anything more than 1 year.
So it'd be worth going a year and saying, okay, let's reevaluate this at the end, and before we sign another contract.
See how much we've actually used it before we do the second year.
I don't see us using it a whole lot, unfortunately, but I understand where we're at, though, we have to archive that stuff.
I mean, I'm just curious if there's more vendors out there. Do we put any time into that?
I can ask staff. Sure. What they looked at. If there's any other vendors out there, certainly.
I mean, it's just $7,200 recurring fee. That's why I'm questioning it.
Yeah, no, I understand.
Is there a time frame on when we have to make that?
No.
I mean, we're not mandated.
So,
by-
if, I guess where I'm going is if the commission wanted more information, we could bypass this now and bring it at another meeting.
Yeah, if you wanted to table it for a meeting, we certainly can bring it back. I could find out if there's alternatives, other vendors, that type of, if there's what kind of need we're expecting, if there's a requirement for us to do this. We know that's a requirement for it to be public records, but I think the question is there a requirement for us to be able to archive and quickly bring up those records?
Cause we're like, do we shadow copy everything on our servers?
I don't know.
It'd be interesting to know too, is with that classified, declassified, archive.
Yeah, I don't know.
So we have a motion to table it.
You could, yeah.
I'll make a motion to table the item 13, the purchase of archive social for social media archiving.
Well, second.
Hey, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
If there are any other comments or questions or that you have on this, just shoot them my way so we can make sure we get that information for you.
Number 14, authorize the finance officer to sign SRF payment related documents. And again, Jameson, I'll ask you to address this.
We've had SRF projects for a couple of years now. We know we're gonna have them for a few more years. Certainly a lot of projects going on and positive changes to our infrastructure. We're always looking at ways to try to speed up the reimbursement process so that from when the contractor submits pay requests, that they get that funding, the money back to them as fast as possible. A lot of that's outside our hand as it has to go through the state and other entities to get that approval. But one small change that we would like to make is to authorize the finance officer to sign documents related to those pay requests. So in that case, if the mayor is out for a day or a week, we can get that signed and moving along. It hasn't been an issue, but we know that there are some concerns I'll put it this way, the mayor being out has not been an issue. He's been quick to sign papers. But they're having contractors asking us and pushing us to get reimbursement to them faster. And we don't have a lot of ways to streamline the process. This is one small thing that we found, and we just want to be as friendly as we can to those contractors.
And to add to that, and that, once the funding comes in and that, you know, rather than waiting 2 weeks for the next commission meeting and then another week. And that, you know, this is kind of where we're, you know, contractors are wanting to speed things up a little bit. So in most of these and that the funding has arrived. The last one and that arrived the day after our last meeting. And the contractor was, you know, concerned, and it would have been 2 more weeks plus another week. And it wasn't something that they were too excited about. So that's kind of where this discussion came from.
I'll make a motion to authorize the finance officer to sign SRF payment related documents.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Number 15, July project updates.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
And Ryan or whoever.
And while Amy's pulling it up, I'll note that we had another very busy month, a lot of exciting project updates that we have for you. We had a few completed projects, which we'll be happy to share information on as well. Here we go. So on the second slide, we keep a list of our active projects that are ongoing. A couple of them have been crossed off the list. And if you go to the next slide, we'll note what those are. So Northeast Third Street was completed in early June. So if you've driven out the northeast side of town there, you'll see that road. We have a picture of it here. That was milled and overlaid. There was some additional excavation needed in some weak spots, but for the most part, that wasn't needed as much as we expected. It's been striped as well, so that project is marked complete. On the sidewalk projects, the 2023 project that was awarded out last year to Big Al's did not get done in 23, but we wanted to note that they came back right away this spring and finished that up in quick order. So the 23 project is complete. And the 24 project obviously has not occurred yet. That doesn't occur any sooner than August because we want to give residents opportunity to hire that out, complete it themselves if desired. And then lastly, we had upgrades to our generation plant, and that is complete as well. The only thing remaining is testing. They want to make sure that the new equipment works correctly. So at the appropriate time for customers, they'll be testing that out, and pending that project is complete. The Sportsplex, we were excited to roll out the archery side of the operations last week, so it is now fully operational. Those lanes opened on June 25th. To celebrate this being finished up, we are having an open house next week on July 9th. The open house will be from 4 to 6 p.m. and then there'll be a ribbon cutting at 4:30. For our major streets and utilities projects, we've had some positive changes there. On segment 1, which is the 9th and Union, 9th Street has finished its paving, a second coat of paving in early June. And then on the North Union segment, all the underground utilities have been completed and soil cement has also been installed. The next work on that project will be the subgrade and then the concrete and then the asphalt on North Union. On segment 2, that's North Union south of 9th Street. That's a different segment. And they have completed all the underground utilities. And so they're moving on to installing the soil cement and then the subgrade next. Segment 3 is in the Roosevelt and Maplewood area. All underground utilities have also been completed there, and they are also moving on to soil cement and subgrade. And then South Union and 4th Street, there has been a lot of work done in that project over the last month, a little bit of storm sewer, and now with all the rains we've had, they're going to have to do a lot of dewatering before continuing with underground utilities. And then finally, creek walls, the 3 sites along Memorial Creek, they have placed the riprap and fabric on site 2 and completed all the removals of the brush and trees and other materials at site 1. And so next, they are waiting for the waters to go down, of course, with the rains we've had, and then they might need to do some repairs to their site before continuing with shaping the channel. Any questions on that? I'll pause. There's a lot of content there.
I have received a lot of questions on that on it, and at least I have the answers, so that was good.
I mean, the creek stuff, where the deadlines are obviously gonna be pushed back and that's. I mean, is that agreed upon at the time or when they start again? I mean, I know the deadline is a little concerning.
Yeah, that deadline is in November. We had a meeting with the contractor today. He sees avenues to make up some time. We're really gonna try to get going again and he's only got a couple days left on the west side of the creek between Egan and Hart. He'll jump over to the east side. It should go quicker. He really feels like he can make it for a long time.
Thanks.
Okay, for the city admin building, I think the most visible change for the public is that the first layer of asphalt's been laid down. And then just today I saw that they were removing the site fencing, so the site's gonna get cleaned up and look a whole lot nicer. Also completed on the second floor, they've done the tiling in the bathrooms. And they are now finished, it says nearly finished, but I know that they are finished with painting that primer coat on the second floor. And the HVAC roughing are also done. First floor, they finished taping and texturing and overhead, as well as the taping and texture, as well as the HVAC, plumbing and electrical overhead. And so then coming up, those two floors just kind of keep moving along. The first floor is gonna get into that painting area now, and the second floor is moving on to the casework. The site fencing's already been removed. They're also working on elevator installation next, and then the flooring and railing in the terrazzo area in the end. Projects remaining on schedule.
When is that scheduled to be done?
I want to say November 26th, somewhere near the end of November. On the public works side, a couple things noted in this slide. First, we want to point out our seasonal employees have been hard at work getting our parks and facilities ready for events that are occurring throughout the summer and as well as daily operations. On the side of their building, the restoration, the park shop is pretty much complete. They just have to cut out the windows and do some finishing touches there. But the parks employees have moved back into their shop. And so now the workers have moved on to the main shop. They've done insulating, the siding and the roofing there. And next is gonna be the mechanic shop, the far east side of the facility. And then they're working on windows and walk-in doors. That's a big piece left of the project. On the utilities, the lead and copper inventory, we've been making a monthly mention of here. We are 70% complete. And so if you want to know how much is left, that's about 800 meters that are still remaining. And again, we are required as part of a nationwide initiative to have an inventory of all those water lines to check for lead and copper. I'm excited to say we have posted on our website a temporary position for somebody to assist in this process. So that closes, I want to say next Friday, 10th. My math is checking out. I think the 10th is the number. And so that would allow us to hire somebody to start going door to door and taking out some of the low hanging fruits on these 800 meters and moving that project along. Any questions on that?
Are we hiring more than one? Is that the plan or not?
I think probably just one, Nate.
Just one was what I was understood right now at this point.
Yeah.
So. Other utility projects are AMI, projects. We want to give you a quick update on that. Of the new meters, we have deployed about 750 of them, and there's just over 500 that are still available in inventory. At this point, the system is reading 84% of electric meters and then 45% of the water meters. We knew that the water meters are gonna be hard to get to, they're inside, and so it's just harder to get those read from the new AMI meters. And we also want to note that staff are investigating the meter failures that are occurring at a higher than expected rate and working with the supplier, trying to figure out why that's occurring. On the conversion project, happy to say that the contractor has completed all their underground work, all the work that we hired out to be done. And so next is for city electric department to do the terminating and the energizing. That's gonna be dependent on when the materials get arrived. I noted already the gen plant controls and automation upgrades were completed. And again, that's pending the Black Star testing to be scheduled at an appropriate time. Any questions on the utility projects?
Yes, what's Black Star testing?
You know, I could muddle my way through an explanation, but I've got the right guy right here.
Black Star's basically when you're gonna be islanded, so we gotta simulate that we lost the tide to East River. And then we'll open up the breaker and simulate that, and then we'll actually pick up the entire load with the gen sets. And then we'll transfer back on to East River, so basically you're imitating the black is, everything's black, everything's dark, you lost your tie. Then you'll pick it up, pick the load up, with the generators, and then tie it back in, so we will have to have an outage, and that's where. We have several commercial customers, industrial customers on that station. So we need load on it, to do it and make sure that the 5 generators are floating the load nice. So we're gonna have to coordinate with them, and that's why we need to be careful where we coordinate that outage to occur, so.
Very good, and thank you, because I know somebody's gonna ask me,
Okay.
and ask somebody else there too. So thank you for that
Does
answer.
that affect the entire town or just that substation?
That'll just be that substation.
Thank you.
On the event side, first I'll note that we had the first job with Jameson last week. Zach and I had a wonderful conversation. Other than that, the turnout was low, but that's okay. We
Brooke was there too for a little
Brooke was there too. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, and Zach's hair made the picture here on the right side there, so. We knew that the morning session would have a lower turnout. That's okay. We wanted to start out small, and the intent has been to have a few more of these sessions at a couple different times throughout the day. Or otherwise to give people an opportunity to come in and talk about whatever's on their mind.
Because you weren't hoping for quite that small.
Well, certainly, I mean, Zach and I had a great conversation, so, yeah. Other events, the library's always got a lot of great events going on that we like to highlight. The summer reading program is about halfway done now. It's a travel theme this year, and you can kind of get a glimpse of a hot air balloon made out of book covers. And then we've got, library team, Tara, who is showing off a prize that she won during week 3. They also highlighted their library of things, where they rent out different materials and like croquet, and that's what's shown in the picture there, and those are available for checkout all summer long. Also in the library, they've had a few events over the last month. They have more stuff coming on. They like to get out in the parks. They do a lot of story time and crafts. They partner with the museum. They do a lot of great stuff there. Coming up on July 8th is a visit from an author. On the 24th, they've got a cupcake challenge, and on August 6th, looking a month out, they'll be going to National Night Out, joining the police department to award out, to give out awards to kids who met their reading goals over the summer. Lots of great stuff happening in the library. We also want to give a shout out to city employees. Over the last month, we've had a couple events for employees to volunteer at different community events. One is the Sleep in Heavenly Peace, the bed build that occurred in the library park, and then also the gathering meal here in our community. And so we've got a couple pictures of employees there that were engaged and volunteering their time. Something we're looking at rolling out is, we know that sometimes we have to have some, negative interactions with the public if we have to tell somebody to mow their lawn or whatever the case is. But we also want to spread some positivity. So we would like to start giving out some door hangers or other notes to recognize residents who have positively been maintaining their property. And so this is an example of something starting out that we're going to be coming soon with. We will note that we can't hit everybody, so Mr. Mayor, as good as your lawn may look, we're not gonna make it to everybody, and we hope we don't hurt anybody's feelings with that, but we want to spread a little bit of positivity as well. We'll note that our communications survey is open today. We estimate it takes people about 5 minutes, and that is helping to give us a baseline on how our residents feel about the city's existing communications efforts. And then hopefully we can continue doing more initiatives and seeing growth in that survey as we redo it in the future. Also note that the value survey that we had opened up over the last couple of weeks is now closed, and we will be sharing results via the website soon. And I think that wraps it up. Are there any questions?
Yes, on that, one of the questions is gonna be, is it in paper form for those people who have phones and that, or have difficulty with.
Yep, if you would like to complete the survey in paper, you can stop in at City Hall. I know for the values one, Savannah had it at, oh, in fact, it says it on here. Could be completed at City Hall, the Community Center, and the library. Those are three different locations for a paper survey.
Very good.
Any other questions?
All right.
Thank you.
Do we have any public comment? I'd say from the looks of them, no. Our next regular commission meeting will be July 15th at 5:30 p.m. And again, if you're looking for part-time employment, please check the city website. And with that, do we have a motion to go into executive session?
I'll make a motion to go into executive session.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. And I just got mentioned, if anyone wants to make a quick trip and that, remember before we start. Great, we're good.
Do you record this session or do we?
No, we don't.